Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're well. So today's not a review, it's more of an education on NAS drives. So the general sentiment is NAS drives are just this box that sits in a corner and stores stuff, which is only 10% of the truth. NAS drives can do so much more. So firstly, let's thank QNAP. I'd like to thank them for sending me over the TS-h973AX, well actually the TS-h973AX, as well as to Seagate for sending me the Iron Wolf drives that I actually created pools of data around. So thank you very much to QNAP as well as Seagate for sending me this, because what we're going to do today is we are going to set up the device. Well, I've actually already set it up, but I'm going to show you how to set up a drive physically, how to actually set it up onto your network, and also the general things that NAS drives could do that you possibly didn't know. For example, did you know that you can actually game from a NAS drive? I'm going to show you how. Did you know that if you were sitting in a coffee shop halfway around the world, you can actually tell your NAS drive to download a movie, and when you get home use your cell phone to actually play it? There's just so much that a NAS drives can do. So I'm not going to ramble on too much. What we're going to do is we're not going to look at this unit a little bit closer. We're going to look at a video of setting up, or how to set up, a NAS drive. So once you've installed the device and you've turned it on and it's connected to the network, you will need to go to a browser and go to service.qnap.com/install. You will click on Cloud Installation and you will see that it's not being picked up here. If it's not, you'll go to QFinder Pro and you will select the device appropriate for the type of PC that you have. So therefore Mac, Windows, Ubuntu, and so on. So I've already done this to save time. So I'm literally just going to go to QNAP, and you can see here is the device. So I've already set this up and I have renamed it, but if you wanted to configure it, you will need to go to configuration by selecting it and saying configure. Now, admin is the default username and the default password will be your MAC address, but without the dashes. So in this case, it'll be 245EBE64A5EO, and then you will push OK. Now, once that's done, you will go into the actual NAS drive by double clicking anywhere on this blue tab. Now you will select login, and on this you will put in the password that you've changed to, or the default password. Now this device is quite intuitive in that it actually shows you all the steps that you need to follow, but the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a storage pool. To set up a storage pool, you'll go to Control Panel, you will go to Storage and Snapshots, and you can skip this for now. The first thing that you need to do is to see that all the devices are being recognized, and you can see the disk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an SSD. Now the disk health and everything will be displayed, and there are various actions that you can do here, but in order to keep this tutorial as short as possible, I'm just going to go through the bare basics, and if you do have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section below. So we go to Storage and Snapshots, We will say new storage pool. It will bring up a wizard, so you can just go through this wizard and it will say, okay, what do you want to connect? So I'm only going to use the first 3 disks, but I'm going to show you what happens when you select more. So when you select 1, the only possibility is RAID 0. When you select 2, you'll have RAID 1. When you select 3, you'll have RAID 0, RAID 5, and triple mirror. When you select 4, you will have 0, 5, 6, and 10. When you select 5, you will have 0, 1, 5, and TP. Now, all of these have different benefits, but they also have different trade-offs. RAID 0 will give you the biggest storage pool, but it'll also give you no security and that your data is being backed up. You can also select an SSD, but in order to do this, you would need to make sure that you got the appropriate storage type so that everything is being mirrored. For example, if I did this and I said that I want to do this, it would work in RAID 0, but if I want to do this in RAID 5 and I would say next, it's going to give me an error saying that RAID groups can only contain the same type of storage medium. So please modify and continue. So I'm going to unselect these for the purposes of this tutorial, and I'm going to set this up in RAID 5, meaning that one of these drives will be a backup. Now, this section will pop up, which is your pull over precisioning and guaranteed snapshots. This is basically just for extra security on the drive, as well as you'll have a load threshold. Basically, when you get to 80%, you are going to get a notification. So you can leave this as is, but just know that it is going to take a portion of your disk, lowering your disk space. Now it's going to give you a summary to show you what your pullover precision, your guaranteed snapshot space is, and then how much unallocated space. And as you can see, from 3-4 terabyte storages, this is the unallocated space that we're going to have. This can be changed if you go back to remove the overpull precisioning and the guaranteed snapshot, and you'll see there that that space has increased, and the lost space is from the backup of the 3rd disk. Okay, so while that may have taken a short time for you, I sped that up, but it was about 15 minutes to do, and it's created storage pool 1 and automatically created these 4 subfolders in downloads, multimedia, public, and recordings. And you'll see if we go back to the disks that they are now blue, meaning that they are in use, versus the purple type color, meaning that they are free to use. So the only other thing that I'm going to show you here is what is called cache acceleration, which won't work because unfortunately you do need to have the appropriate amount of storage and the amount of devices. But what this does is it basically speeds up your NAS drive by using an SSD as an actual cache or cache, depending on how you want to pronounce it. So now that we've created our pool, we are almost there. But what's really handy on this device is you'll see there a notice board. So the notice board is a really cool way to actually show you what you need to do. So it's already checked off that you need to get started. So we've created a storage pool. Now I've left this so that we are able to do this together, and now we're going to create our QNAP ID. So it will take you to the account setup, and I would set up with Google, but I'm on an anonymous at the moment. As you can see, they're just for tutorials. So we're going to nickname this Woodini. We're going to put in the email. We are going to give ourselves a password. We're going to confirm that password. Yes, I am 16 years old. It will take you through the end user license agreements, and I agree. So now I need to activate it, and I will just go to my cell phone in order to do that. Now that I've activated, I can sign in. Now it's going to ask you to protect your account with two-step verification. And the reason for this is because you can also use apps on your phone as well. So it's really good to have a good protection level to make sure that your files are inaccessible to outside parties. There's a lot of security built in to the QNAP itself, but it's always good to have multiple layers of protection. So now that I've set up my QNAP cloud, I can just log in and with the same details that I put in. So now I need to register my device, and I'm going to call it Woodini, and everything in lower, because it is HTML, you can use capitals, it shouldn't matter. But what this means is now you can access your NAS remotely so long as you have an internet connection wherever you are in the world. So everything done, and my QNAP cloud link is done. Everything is done. It does say web connectivity is not there, but it is, and I'll show you how to get there. So on auto router configuration, there will be an error that pops up when you do enable the UPnP port forwarding. So it is a little bit of a risk, but so long as you have two-factor authentication, you should be fine. So it does do all of the port forwardings automatically, and you just apply that to router. Then another thing you can do is get an SSL certificate, and I've already done this. There are two options. The first one is a paid for option. The second one is an encryption that is done for you. So that you literally just go to the second option, click on it, and it does it by itself. Now, to show you that I can access this router remotely, I'm going to show you a picture of my cell phone, but let's first do this. So we are going to copy this. We are going to paste that there. And we are through, and this, as you can see, is houdini.myqnapcloud.com, and then it's got the port forwarding. So we would just log in with the same credentials, no matter, again, where you are in the world. You can say remember me if it's a device that you trust. You can save that, and as you can see, I've got exactly the same user interface as I do right through my home network. So the web connectivity is working. Now, there is so much to a NAS that it's almost impossible to learn it all unless you are literally just a NAS expert. But I'm going to try and go through all the different applications, or at least give you a brief of all the applications that you can use this. So on the top left-hand corner, we do have the menu in which we are able to access the applications in the system as well as all the installed apps. But let's go into the actual App Center. So you will see that there are a couple of apps. These are the installed ones. One very important one, which I'm going to go through now, is the Help Desk 308, and you do need to be logged in through your credentials on QNAP Cloud, and you can actually submit support requests. So there are general FAQs that are here, and you can say help request. So you would need to log in with your username and password, and then you'd be able to get a ticket, and you'll be able to submit a ticket from here and then get the status of that ticket from logging in to your QNAP. Now back to the actual apps, you'll see that they are segmented according to their different subtypes, and you'll have backup and sync, business, but let's go through them. So you will see a whole bunch, and you would need to select the ones that are pertinent to you. For me, this is more about storing games as well as having access to, because what I want to do is create a network where I can actually access all the games that I test for reviews as well as all the reviews that I am testing. So we can go into business, and you'll see that there is even ERPs as well as CRMs that you can install. Communications, there are developer tools, entertainment, so you can turn your entire household, so long as they're connected via the network. You can have something like Plex. I would need to play around with these, but Plex, something I've used before, where you can actually install a movie or download a movie onto your device and then play it onto your TV using your cell phone as a remote, and literally just clicking and the movie will play. Surveillance as well, you can set up surveillance through this, so long as it is a network type camera. Then there are utilities, home automation, and then security, which we see we've got most of those installed already. So it does have so much to offer, and you probably never will be able to get the full use out of what this device can actually do. So there is something called QTS Essentials, and these are the apps recommended by QNAP. But again, select the ones that are pertinent to you, because there's everything from Help Desk all the way to QVR Door Access, which is something that I probably would never use, as well as FaceLink. There is just so much to go with this. You can also create a music library, if I can actually find where I saw that. There it is. Create a music station as well as a multimedia console. So a lot of this does need playing around, and also depending on the type of model that you have, certain models will have access to different types of applications. Apart from App Center, there's also obviously Control Panel, and this gives you access to all the system settings, privileges, network and file services and applications. We have File Station, where you can look through the different files that you have created through your storage pool. This is for external devices, so there is a USB-C attached at the back, as well as USB-A's, and then your notifications. There's also something at the top right here called Dashboard, and this will give you an indication as to everything that's going on with inside your NAS with regards to the RAM usage, the CPU usage, temperatures, as well as the up times. So we can also have this network location as a device and drive within this PC, and you can do this by clicking on these three little dots and then add a network location. You can also map a network drive should you wish, but let's first add the network location. Now you can put in the address, or you can go onto browse, and you will see that the QNAP will pop up eventually once the PC's looked for it. So we can click on any one of these and then just say, well, let's say that we want multimedia, and then we are going to push OK. And then you'll see it is mapped to the multimedia drive. So we can name this anything that we want, but for the purposes of this education, I'm going to name this as my saves. So if we go back to this PC, we'll see that the network location has been added. However, just remember that they do share a pool, so whatever you do save in this will affect all the other pools inside the NAS drive. But you can go into the NAS drive at any time and see what the storage set is. Now we can also map a network drive. It is the same principle as a network location. It just makes sure that it's seen as a drive and not a location. So we would just go to browse and we will select multimedia again, say OK, and therefore you can see it's called multimedia, and then finish. And if we go out here, we'll see that multimedia on the QNAP is there, and it is the Z drive. And therefore we can even see now the size of how much space we have left. Okay, so now I've moved Final Fantasy to the NAS drive. I'm going to push close. You can see there it is over there in Z. We'll even check over here in the actual folder, and we can see the Steam library there. So please note, as mentioned earlier, this is going to be determined by the speed of your network as well as the speed of the drives as to what loading times are going to be. But here we go. And there we are. While it might look a little bit slower on your display, that's just got to do with frame settings. It is playing through the NAS drive.
The 13 days after we awoke were the beginning of the end.
So guys, as you have seen, a NAS drive can do so much, and there's just so many applications that you can actually find use for them. And I do think that every household should have a NAS because of what their capabilities are, especially having a pool of storage for your entire household that anyone can access. You can even subset a different folder that certain people have access to, including guests, if you want to give them a video or something. But I'm just going to go over, before we conclude, some general tips and tricks around NAS drives. So the first tip and trick is that you need to have the right network infrastructure for a NAS drive depending on how you're going to use it. So if you want to use it as a gaming center, you are going to need a 2.5G, a 5G, or a 10G network, and that isn't just the router. You need to have the right cables like Cat6e, as well as the network switches as well. So making sure that you have the correct network infrastructure for your NAS drive is just as important as the NAS drive itself. Secondly is you do need to ensure that the NAS drive is connected directly into the router. Now I know when I did the setup video, it's because my router's sitting on the other side of the house. I did plug it into the network switch, but in order to get the full capability, and that includes being able to connect to QNAP Cloud, you do need to have it plugged in directly to the router. Next, make sure that you do have a UPS connected to your NAS. The boot up times for NASs are very long, and it's not very healthy for them to be going on, off, on, off, on, off. So even if you do get a small UPS, just to give yourself enough time to shut down the NAS, and remember that you can shut down your NAS from an app on your phone if you know that you're going to have load shedding at home. Next, do not bloat your NAS with unnecessary apps. It can be very intensive depending on the actual size of the unit or the RAM in the unit. Don't over or bloatware your NAS because it can inhibit the performance of the actual device. Next is understanding the type of setup that you want to go, and I'm referring to RAID. So if the information that you're putting on the drives is not important and you can easily access it anytime you want, then you can go with something like RAID 0. However, if you're storing something that is extremely precious to you and you're not going to be able to get it again, rather use something like RAID 1 if you're on a 2-bay, or RAID TS, just depending. So make sure that you investigate the right type of RAID solution before you set it up. Lastly, lean on QNAP Help Center. So just as an example, I wanted to test it out. So I said, okay, I've got this issue. Within probably about 20 minutes, I already had an email that gave me a link to say, okay, cool, your chat has been opened, please reply here. And you go back and forth, and I told the guy, look, I'm only testing this for review purposes, and I want to see how respondent you guys are. And they were really responsive and very helpful. So I said, okay, cool, what if a person has this type of issue, what would you do? And they actually gave me all the information, and you were actually speaking to a human being. You can set up remote access to the NAS drive. So even if you get into your car, it sets up for about 3 or 4 days. You can cancel the connection whenever you want, but the experts from QNAP can actually log onto your NAS and fix any issues remotely that you may have. Guys, I really hope you found this interesting and informative, and I hope that you actually see NAS drives in a different light and a different perspective. I'm actually so excited to get mine set up. I am moving, so if you do see that the videos are slowing down, it's just because I'm literally moving provinces. So I cannot wait to get this NAS drive set up on my new network in my new location. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have an awesome time wherever you are. Cheers and goodbye.